Ukraine has lifted its restrictions on attacks against Russian energy infrastructure, causing several Russian regions to lose power recently due to strikes on power plants and thermal stations. For example, in Belgorod, a series of explosions occurred on the evening of October 5. As shown in a video posted online, for some reason, part of the city lost power. The governor of Belgorod, Vyacheslav Gladkov, said the city's power infrastructure is damaged. Later, on the night of October 6, drones attacked the thermal power plant, combined heat and power, in Klintsy, Bryansk region, Russia. Locals said that it was probably a powerful missile strike, while the Ukrainian side only stated that the Russians are getting a response. At the same time, Ukraine is systematically destroying Russia's oil refining industry, which is causing a gasoline shortage across the country. The Kremlin claims the gasoline shortage isn't connected to the oil refinery attacks. In this regard, many experts are convinced that Ukraine has lifted a certain taboo on striking Russia, since Russia is only escalating its attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. By the way, Ukraine prepared thoroughly for this winter, and according to sources, electricity suppliers in Ukraine are relying on a network of massive American-designed batteries stored in top-secret locations to ensure the country's power supply even during Russian attacks. My name is Alexei Pechi. Today is October 6th, and in this episode we will discuss the fact that Ukraine seems to have lifted the taboo on striking substations, thermal power plants, power stations, and so on. Before we begin, let me remind you that this YouTube channel releases several news analysis segments every day so that you can stay up to date with absolutely all the news. That's why I recommend subscribing to this YouTube channel, and I also ask you to subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pechi News. The link is in this video's description, where we post breaking news as it happens. The whole city flickered. So, it seems that Ukraine has stopped holding back in striking Russia. But I'll start with the purely military targets of the armed forces of Ukraine. On the night of October 6, Ukraine's defense forces struck a Russian plant producing explosives and ammunition in the Nizhny Novgorod region, as well as an oil and petroleum transshipment complex in occupied Crimea. This was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. They clarified that the Sverdlov plant in the Nizhny Novgorod region is one of the largest producers of explosives in Russia. And they can equip almost all types of ammunition there. Aviation and artillery shells, aerial bombs, including those guided to the target, warheads for shaped charge, anti-tank, guided missiles, munitions for engineering troops, and warheads for air defense missile systems. Ukrainian Defense Forces also struck the facilities of the Marine Oil Terminal Joint Stock Company in occupied Feodosia. This is a multifunctional technological complex where oil and petroleum products are transferred from railway tank cars to sea vessels and back, and oil is also transferred to road transport there. This organization supplies the Russian Federation's occupying army in occupied Crimea. A fire was recorded at this facility, which occurred as a result of a successful attack. In addition, in occupied Crimea, Ukrainian forces hit the ammunition depot of the separate logistics battalion of the 18th Combined Arms Army of the Russian Federation. Overall, the armed forces of Ukraine are actively destroying Russia's oil refining industry. And I think that many people have already simply lost count. How often have the Ukrainian armed forces targeted Russian oil refineries? These attacks are only growing in scale. And here, let's go back to the strike on the oil depot in Feodosia on October 5th. The Feodosia oil depot holds 250,000 tons of fuel. Meanwhile, gasoline was already completely scarce on the peninsula. The head of the occupation administration of Crimea, what's his name, Aksionov, this Aksionov promised 2 weeks ago that the problem would be solved in 2 days, but somehow it didn't work out. At first, they gave 30 liters of gasoline per person, then it was already down to 20 liters. And then there was also a strike on the oil terminal, and most likely now there will be even less gasoline in Crimea. And on the night of the 5th to the 6th, Ukraine also attacked the oil refinery in Tuapse. And these strikes on Russian oil refineries have consequences not only in the form of lines at gas stations, through gasoline ration cards already back in Russia and higher fuel prices. Since the attacks began in August, 16 out of 38 Russian oil refineries have been affected by these strikes. Many of them have been hit more than once, so repairing them is pointless because they'll just get hit again anyway. And here I decided to show you an interesting infographic. If you take a look, it shows how the Russian fuel crisis expanded week by week while Ukraine was striking oil refineries. Let someone claim there are no problems, but since the Russians don't get it, Ukraine went further. Explosions happened in Belgorod on the evening of October 5. A video on social media shows part of the city unexpectedly losing power. Belgorod Governor Vyacheslav Golodkov reported damage to the city's power infrastructure. According to local social media groups, the gas turbine power plant substation called Luke was attacked. Due to the strike on the substation, there is no electricity not only in Belgorod, but also in the areas adjacent to Belgorod. Golodkov confirmed that all emergency crews have been sent to the strike site. He added that Belgorod hospitals have switched to backup power. That is, people in Belgorod, only partially just a little experienced what Ukrainians are feeling. The entire full-scale phase of the war, the whole phase when Russians are striking critical infrastructure. Now, people in Belgorod are beginning to experience what a blackout and real chaos are like. Living without electricity or heating is difficult, but that's not all. In the city of Klintsy, in the Bryansk region, a large fire broke out at the local thermal power plant. The facility was likely hit by a missile strike. Eyewitnesses reported a powerful explosion near the power plant just before the fire began. Local residents are reporting power outages in the city. So what exactly happened? Ukraine has decided not to comment on this event, only noting that the Russians are receiving a symmetrical response to their attacks on Ukrainian energy infrastructure. We were patient for a long time. Ukraine avoided striking thermal power plants and substations, focusing only on military targets. The time has come, and that's why we're striking now. By the way, as the Wall Street Journal writes today, on the eve of Ukraine's fourth winter in the war, electricity suppliers are betting on a network of massive American-developed batteries stored in top-secret locations to ensure the country's power supply, as its infrastructure once again faces massive threats and strikes. The Wall Street Journal notes that battery parks with a total capacity of 200 megawatts can supply power for about 2 hours to roughly 600,000 households, which is equivalent to supporting a city the size of Washington, where the official population is 700,000. That is, during a bombardment, the energy storage units give engineers time to restore the power supply and prevent a blackout. It is reported that battery parks were developed to help close the gaps in Ukraine's energy supply and regulate it by providing an alternative energy source. Even in the event of an attack on the grid, the $140 million program was completed back in August. And, as the Wall Street Journal writes, in order to avoid the batteries being shelled, Ukrainians are keeping silent about their exact locations and the details of the measures taken to protect them from Russian attacks, including strategically placed air defense systems. 6 battery energy storage systems have been added to the power grid in Kiev and Dnipropetrovsk regions. They supply electricity in case another source, such as a thermal power plant, goes offline, which helps avoid the prolonged power outages that Ukrainians have faced in recent years. I'll put an ellipsis here. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care. Bye, everyone.